So what does it mean? We're missing this gene, so what? It's one single gene and we have 26,000 genes in our genome. Why is this gene so important? Well, those of us that live every day with a child with Angelman syndrome, we all know that gene is sadly incredibly, incredibly important. And so what is that UBE3A gene making? It's making the UBE3A protein. That protein is vital to control body movement, to control learning, memory, speech. It is very vital in the functions that our neurons need in order to control the rest of our body. And so this protein is essentially an enzyme, and that enzyme tags other proteins. And by tagging other proteins, it tells them, you need to go in the garbage, you need to stick around. So it really is a messenger to say, we need a little more of you and a little less of you. And it kind of coordinates the brain, and it coordinates the space between two neurons called the synapse to ensure that the right chemicals are being read. And if the right chemicals are there and functioning, then the neurons can work properly. And neuronal communication is incredibly, incredibly complex. And that needs to be essentially manned by some very significant police officers. And we're missing those police officers in that space. And so that results in an accumulation of certain proteins that are not allowing that area to communicate properly. And so if we were removing some of those excess proteins, then the neurons would be able to speak to each other. That made a lot more sense. So without the ability to move that, then to remove some of these proteins, our kids essentially lose, it's called a synaptopathy. The synapse is that junction, and our kids essentially lose the ability for that junction to work in a way that makes them as functional as possible as are neurotypical.